Hello, hello, hello once again, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to Magic 2014. So last time around was our first episode, and we were going through just the very, very basics of Magic, learning about mana, how to cast creatures and spells, and attacking and blocking and basic concepts like that. We also went on to sorceries. So this time around, I believe we are moving on to enchantments. Enchantments are things that you can put on creatures and things like that. So let's just dive straight in, and I'll let the game explain some of the more important stuff, because I tend to ramble on and get distracted by various different things. Okay, so we're going to play a forest. We have nothing else to do this turn, and we pass it over to the other player. So they are playing a white, what looks like a white deck, so they're playing white mana there. The plains, and they're playing a Suntail Hawk, which is a 1/1 creature with flying. Okay, so as we came across last time around, flying, you can't attack or block a creature with flying unless you are controlling.
You've drawn an aura enchantment. As you cast an aura, it will attach to a target on the battlefield, often giving it a permanent bonus.
Okay, so just quickly again on that, with the flyer, I can't block him unless I have a flyer or a creature with reach. So we've drawn an aura card. I'm not quite sure which one it is, but an aura enchantment. As you cast an aura enchantment, it will target a permanent on the battlefield. Now, some of the terms and concepts here can be a little bit confusing, but a permanent is basically anything which stays on the battlefield, like a creature, an enchantment, an aura, things like that, or whatever. A sorcery wouldn't be a permanent, an instant wouldn't be a permanent, things like that. So it will attach to that permanent as it resolves, and usually has some kind of continuous effect on that permanent. Okay, so we're going to cast another forest. Right. And then we have a Runeclaw Bear. But we're going to look at this. So this is an enchantment, and this is an aura enchantment. So it basically sticks to the creature, and what it does is it gives the enchanted creature a +3/+3. So it makes him gives him 3 extra power and 3 extra toughness. So we're going to cast our Runeclaw Bear. So next turn we'll have 3 mana. We'll be able to cast Oaken Form. So we can't attack this turn, so we move on to the other player. Cast another plains, and he's going to swing for 1, which I cannot block because he's a flyer, so I take 1 damage. And there we go. So he is also now casting a Youthful Knight. So he's paying 2 mana to cast the Youthful Knight. I'm not quite sure why he didn't cast him initially. So, as I mentioned in the last video, you have the various different stages of the game. So you have your upkeep step, where you untap everything right at the beginning of your turn, and then you draw a card, and then you have your first main phase where you can cast creatures and sorceries and things like that. Then you have your combat, and then you have a second main phase where you can again cast creatures. So what he's chosen to do here is he's played a land, so he's increased his mana pool. He's then gone and attacked me, and then after attacking me, he's put out this creature, which is an interesting way of going about things. You generally use that if you were afraid of the other, the other player doing something while you were, while they were blocking, etc. So he's casting him now. The interesting thing about this guy is he has an ability called First Strike. So if you cast your minds back to the first video, and if you haven't watched the first video already, unless you're very familiar with Magic already, I would recommend you go back and visit that first video just to go over the basic concepts, and just so you get a kind of an understanding of the different concepts and the way Magic works and stuff like that. So the way creatures attack each other, you basically have your strike. Now you also have a first strike, which can happen before the other creature can do damage. So what we saw the last time was if a 2/2 creature went up against another 2/2 creature, they'd both do 2 damage to each other, and they'd both die. But if one of them was a 3/2 and the other one was a 2/2, one of them would have survived. Oh no, sorry. No, that wouldn't work. So a 3/3 going up against a 2/2. This is getting confusing now. So a 3/3 creature going up against a 2/2 creature. The 3/3 creature does 2 damage to the other guy, but the other guy still does 2 damage to the 3/3 guy. So he just about survives. With First Strike, what will happen is the creature with First Strike will do all of his damage first, and he doesn't then wait for the other creature to do damage to him. If he's done enough damage to kill that creature, boom, gone. Good luck, see ya. So the other creature doesn't actually do any damage in that case. So I'll stop rambling now. So, you know, what they've done here is they've essentially taken my 2-3 minute ramble and just concisely laid it out right there. So, exactly. It's possible for a creature to be destroyed before it can deal its combat damage. Okay, perfect. So, now that we know about that, we'll not show that again, and I won't speak of it again. So, it's now our turn. So, we're going to cast a forest. We now have Oaken form. Okay, so we're going to just zoom in on this again. So I'm going to go to more info here. So an enchantment or an aura. This card can be affected by anything that affects an enchantment or aura. So it's an enchantment card, but it's also an aura card. It is also a permanent. Once put onto the battlefield, it stays on the battlefield until something causes it to leave. And that's the definition of a permanent, as I mentioned earlier. You can cast enchantment spells only during one of your main phases. When an aura is cast, its controller must choose a target on the battlefield for it to enchant. If an aura is enchanting something that leaves the battlefield, the aura is put into its owner's graveyard. So it sticks to that creature and follows it into the grave. So we're going to play that, and we're going to cast it on this guy. So he now becomes a 5/5 creature. Fantastic. Let's just have a quick look. All he gets is +3/+3. Fantastic. Okay. So we are going to attack for 5 with this guy. And what we'll see is he's going to block with his 2/1 guy there. Actually, he's not, it looks like. Oh, he's opted not to block, because then that creature would have died. But then we would have gotten a nice demonstration of the first strike thing happening. I'm sure that will come sometime in the near future. Okay, so he's got 3 mana now, and he's playing Glorious Anthem. Now, this is an enchantment, and it means creatures you control get +1/+1. So this is going to basically sit on the battlefield. It's permanent. It'll sit on the battlefield until something makes it go away, and it will mean that all of his creatures get +1/+1.
Not all enchantments are auras. Some sit on the battlefield and permanently change the way the game is played. Glorious Anthem will make all your opponent's creatures bigger.
So you can see it's sitting over here just on the side of the battlefield. It's not in the graveyard, which would normally be here. It's just right here. So there you have the difference between an aura enchantment and a normal enchantment. The aura normally sticks itself or attaches itself to a creature. So we've taken 3 damage there, and another 2 damage there. Okay, so we're now going to cast another forest. Fantastic. Okay, so this flyer over here, which is 2/2, we can now take him out with our giant spider, because our giant spider has reach. Creatures with reach can block creatures with flying. Fantastic. Unfortunately, he has summoning sickness, so we can't actually use him right now. Now, he's tapped out, so I'm going to swing for 5. So he's fully tapped out. He doesn't even have any mana to, you know, rebuke me or prevent me from doing damage to him. So I'm at 14, which isn't very good, but he's at 10, which is worse. So he's playing another planes. He's got access to 4 mana now. He's moved into his combat. He has decided not to attack, and he's going to end his turn. Okay, so we're going to go with Forest, and we now have a choice. We can cast Bountiful Harvest and gain 1 life for each land I control, which is 5 life. I would then go up to 19. However, I now have access to Oaken form, and I can give one of my creatures +3/+3. So if I give this guy +3/+3, he goes up to 5/7, which is pretty good. It's a little bit stronger than this guy, and we could swing in and do a good bit of damage. So yeah, let's do it. I wonder, is there any point in doing that? I obviously this is a valid target, so I can attach another one to him if I wanted to, but I want to beef up this guy a little bit, so we're going to attach it to him. So now, and we're going to swing in with I'm just going to swing in with my this is a tough one now. Screw it, let's just attack with everything. So Youthful Knight has done his damage first, so I take 3 damage. Now Runecall Bear gets to attack, and you see, there you go. So that's the demonstration of the first strike happening. So the first strike happens, and that damage resolves, and then the main normal kind of strike occurs between the two. Fantastic. So I've just taken out both of his creatures. I'm unfortunately tapped out, but he's down at 10 and he has no creatures. So next turn, I should be in a very good position to just take him out. Oh no! No, he's cast Day of Judgment. And as you can see there, Day of Judgment says, destroy all creatures. So Day of Judgment is one of those kind of fun cards where, for those of you unfamiliar with the various different other formats of Magic, there are lots of multiplayer formats of Magic. Now, you can play multiplayer stuff using this game, Magic 2014, you can play online. But when you're playing paper Magic with a big group of people and you're playing a big multiplayer one, when you can basically target, 4, 5, 6 other players and they have loads of creatures out, if you cast Day of Judgment, you can be guaranteed you're going to be laughing and cackling and you'll have a smile on your face and everyone around you is going to be going, oh damn you destroyed all my world. So it's a fun card, but if you're on the receiving end of it, as I am right now, you're not really going to be very pleased. So gone. And unfortunately that also means that all my Oaken forms have disappeared as well, which I'm not happy about. Okay, so we'll cast a Forest, and we can now cast Bountiful Harvest to gain 6 life, or we can cast Wild Pear, which is an enchantment. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield, if you cast it from your hand, you may search your library for a creature card with the same total power and toughness and put it onto the battlefield. If you do, shuffle your library. So basically, when I cast this, it's going to go on the battlefield, it'll just sit there, and any time in the future, before the end of the game, whenever a creature enters the battlefield, not just one of mine, but whenever a creature enters the battlefield, if I cast it from my hand, I may search the library for a creature card with the same total power and toughness. And I can just stick it right into the battlefield, and boom, there you go. So I'm going to play this. And that's the end of my turn. Okay, so he's played a land. He has access to a lot of mana at the moment. Okay, so he is playing Leonin Skyhunter. So this is a 2/2 flyer. So I don't have anything to actually counter him, and because of his Glorious Anthem, this guy is now a 3/3, not a 2/2. So, right, crap, I'm not in a good position right now, so I'm going to cast a Forest, and I'm now going to cast Bountiful Harvest. So I now have 7 land, so I'm going to gain 7 life by casting Bountiful Harvest. It's the only option I have available to me, aside from simply skipping my turn, so we'll do that. Right, so he's on 10 life, I'm on 21. He has 1 creature, and I have none. So, kind of 60-40 at this point, just slightly in my favour. But at the moment, I'm banking on something good coming out of my library. Crap, he's cast yet another Leonin Skyhunter. So you can see there, again, as I mentioned before, and I keep reiterating just to... Because I'm so used to playing paper Magic, I understand the different steps that are there, whereas in this it automates a lot of things like that for you. So I just feel it's helpful for anybody who wants to kind of, jump into this, but then actually go off into paper Magic, which I think is a bit more fun when you have the the relevant people around. But when you're playing paper Magic, you need to understand the different steps which the game is automatically doing for me, so that's why I keep talking about it. So basically what he did there was he cast Leonin Skyhunter, he cast a spell, put his land in, then he went into his combat phase and attacked me, and then after that phase he played another Leonin Skyhunter. Anyway, right, so Enormous Bailoff, fantastic. Okay, so what's going to happen here is I have enough mana to cast my Enormous Bailoff. I have 7 mana, and he's a 7/7, so he's pretty big. He will be able to protect me and do some serious damage. But because of my Wild Pear, whenever a creature enters the battlefield, if you cast it from your hand, which I'm just about to do, I now have the option to search my library for a creature card with the same total power and toughness, so another 7/7 creature, and he just goes boom straight onto the battlefield. I don't have to pay anything for him. So we're going to cast Enormous Bailoff, and now I'm going to resolve this effect, and I'm going to get access to this. So I have 2 creatures here. I have Engulfing Slagworm, which is a 7/7. And his ability is, whenever Engulfing Slagworm blocks or becomes blocked by a creature, destroy that creature. You gain life equal to that creature's toughness, which is pretty epic. So if he blocks a creature, or he becomes blocked by a creature, boom, gone. See you later, and I absorb the life of that creature. However, this guy is also interesting. So this guy is called Verdant Force. At the beginning of each upkeep, now, as I mentioned earlier on, the upkeep is right at the beginning. Before you even draw a card, you untap stuff. So that's the upkeep step. Put a 1/1 green sapperling creature token onto the battlefield. So, what I think I'm going to do is, Engulfing Slagworm sounds really cool, because if he blocks or becomes blocked, boom, creature is gone. But, as I mentioned in the first video, I've been playing Magic for a little while, and I've developed my own kind of theme. And my theme is spawning loads and loads of creatures, spawning loads and loads of tokens. So anything that says anything about spawning tokens and stuff like that, I'm really all for that. So I'm going to try this one out. So we're going to go for Verdant Force. So I'm going to confirm this guy. Boom, straight onto the battlefield. Now, obviously I've already gone past my first upkeep step. So what it says there, and I'm just going to stop the timer just for a moment to point this out. It doesn't say at the beginning of my upkeep, it says at the beginning of each upkeep. So I cast him during my turn, and then I ended my turn. We went on to the other player's turn, and he has an upkeep step in his turn, right at the beginning. So boom, that resolves, and now I have a 1/1 sapperling creature token on the battlefield. So now I have another creature to block or attack with. And when he ends his turn, boom, at the beginning of my turn, I have my upkeep step, another one appears on the battlefield. So we're going to continue, leave him do his combat. Now unfortunately the sapperling creature doesn't have anything like reach or anything like that, so he's not helpful against those flyers. But, you know what, screw it. So I've now got my sapperling, and I've just pulled Garruk's Pack Leader. So this guy is a creature, he's a beast creature. Whenever another creature with power 3 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, you may draw a card. So this guy is a 4/4. So anything with 3 or greater enters the battlefield under my control, I'm able to draw a card. This guy is a creature. I like having creatures because that means I can attack my enemies. So boom, we'll play that. Oh, so again, because of this one over here, Wild Pair, I'm now able to choose another 4/4 creature to join me, and he's just gonna go boom straight on the battlefield. So this is really nice. So we're gonna choose Stampede Rhino, and he's got Trample, so any damage of his that doesn't... Oh wow, okay, I've got another effect here. So just again to run over Trample, literally run over Trample. So with the Trample effect, if a creature blocks some of the damage that this guy does, so blocks maybe 2 or 3 out of the 4, the rest of the damage rolls on to the other player and does him damage. So Garruk's Pack Leader has an ability where whenever another creature with power 3 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, you may draw a card. It's asking me, do I want to draw a card? It says you may draw a card. It doesn't say you have to, so you actually have the choice. So when you get really in-depth into, you know, high-level kind of Magic stuff, and you have things like this, sometimes it will benefit you to use your optional abilities, sometimes it won't, and sometimes you'll say, actually no, I don't want to do that, but I'm going to draw a card. And I haven't played a land this turn, and that's something actually I neglected to point out in the last video. One of the basics of Magic is you can only play 1 land per turn. So because I haven't played one already, boom, I'm going to play that one. And I now have a choice of 3 different creatures, because these guys are all summoning 6, so I can't attack with them at the moment, but they are perfectly able to block, so I'm going to leave them there for the moment. And what I can do is I'm going to swing just with these 2 guys. I don't want to swing with him because he'll probably die. Just going to have a quick look. No, he's good. And he's good. So we're just going to swing with these 2. And we're going to attack. So they're doing a total of 14 damage. The flyers can very easily block them, and they've done that. Boom. So flyer goes down, and off you go. And the flyer goes down, and off you go. So I've attacked with my 2 strong guys and taken out both of his Leonins. And now we're sorted. Fantastic. So we've got another sapperling creature. He's got 9 mana and nothing to show for it. Fantastic. Okay, so unless he can do something absolutely wonderful in Magic now, he's gone. So I'm going to swing with absolutely everything I have. So I'm going to swing with this guy, and this guy, and this guy, and this guy. As I mentioned in the last video, there is an attack with all here, but sometimes there is a nice pleasure in just going, here's this is how many creatures I have, I'm going to choose them all, I'm going to drag this out, and I'm going to impress upon you just how overwhelming my forces are. And boom, we're going to attack. So, boom, 7 damage from the enormous Baloth. Boom, 7 damage from the Verdant Force. Watcha! 1 damage from a tiny little sapperling. Watcha! Another 1 damage from a tiny... I'm going to stop now. So, unfortunately we can't really click through this. Watcha! 4 damage from Garruk's Pack Leader. Another 1 damage from the green sapperling. 4 trampling damage from the Stampeding Rhino. And he's gone. Oh, that was nice. I like that. So, as you can see, as I mentioned, I do really enjoy that kind of theme where you're kind of generating loads and loads of creatures and you just kind of roll over your enemy with, you trample over your enemy, not just with trample, but with overwhelming force. So that's something I'll be going over next year, in the next month or two with Paper Magic. Just as a quick aside before we move on to the next one, in Paper Magic, as I mentioned, as we've discovered here in this video, my theme is kind of bringing out loads and loads of creature tokens. So the theme I had in last year's set, which is no longer valid, it's now part of Modern, it's not part of Standard. What I had was I had a deck which basically milled through my library, so it forced loads of cards from my library directly into my graveyard, and the more creatures I had in my graveyard, the stronger my spells like spider spawning and things like that would become. So if I had 8 creatures in my graveyard and I cast spider spawning, I would then spawn 8 spider tokens onto the battlefield. And so that's the kind of theme I have for these kind of things, and kind of really enjoy that. So what I'll be doing next month, or the month after that, once I finally get around to actually physically buying some of the new set, I'm going to be looking for cards to actually do that. So I'll be going through the process of, right, I have loads of cards, but I'm not quite sure how to build the deck. Here's my theme, let's start there, and let's build the deck with that theme in mind. And it'll be an interesting exercise both for myself and hopefully for any of you watching who are, interested in Magic, or you're just getting started, and it'll help you kind of, I don't know, maybe focus on how to actually build a good deck, or a deck that you'd be happy with. Anyway, that's enough of that. We're now going to move on to Instants. So I've been talking about Instants for the last 2 episodes. Sorry, for the first episode, and I mentioned it earlier on in this episode as well. We're finally actually going to come across them. So let's dive straight into it. Okay, so it's my turn here. I'm going to cast 1 mana. Can't do anything else. Boom, there you go.
Unlike other spells, instants can be cast at any time, even during your opponent's turn or in response to another spell.
Exactly. That's why they're called
instants. To cast
instants.
a spell at one of these times, press spacebar or click Stop Timer.
So, as I mentioned in the end of the last video, I kind of went over instants a little bit, and the difference in this game is that you actually have to press a button to tell the game, oh, actually I'm going to stop. In Paper Magic, the other player would simply sit there waiting for you to go, okay, what are you doing? Hello, come on, are you there? Are you awake? What's going on? And if they had cast a spell, or they cast a creature, and you want to cast your amazing instant, which is going to, explode the entire battlefield, or kill that creature or whatever, you'll go, I don't know, hang on, stop. I'm going to pay 4 mana here, and I'm going to cast this. So something like Doomblade, which just kills target non-black creature and things like that. So enough of that. We'll cast another forest. We don't have anything else we can do here. We'll just have a quick look at our instant here. This is called Giant Growth. So at any point I can cast this spell, and I can target any creature. It can be one of my creatures, it could be one of the other player's creatures, and he gets +3/+3. So if, for example, I decide not to cast this when I'm attacking, but when I'm getting attacked, so one of my creatures is about to be overwhelmed and destroyed, I play Giant Growth for one single tiny little green mana, and boom, he's now much bigger and he's probably able to survive the attack. So now moves on to the opponent's turn. He draws and plays 1 red mana. So he's going to tap 2 red mana and he's going to play Goblin Piker, which is run-of-the-mill 2/1 creature. No strange abilities or anything like that. So he's summoning sick, he can't attack, it's the end of his turn, and away we go. So we're going to cast a forest here, and we're going to play Kalonian Tusker. So, I now have 1 mana free, and I can pay it, and I can play this, but there's no point in doing it now, because this guy is summoning sick, he can't attack, so there's no point in playing it now. If I play it now, it says target creature gets +3/+3 until end of turn. I'm about to end my turn because I can't do anything else. And the game rightly says, wait to cast a spell until later in the turn, because there's no point in doing it now. So, I've already cast my forest, can't do anything else, let's continue. So now I'm in my second phase after combat. I can play it now if I like, but as I say, there's simply no point, and I'm going to continue. So we're going to hand it over to the other player. And so, he is... Ooh. So he's paying 3 mana to play Lightning Talons. And this is an enchantment, or an aura, which we encountered in the last game. So he's going to play this, and he's going to enchant his creature to have +3/+0. So it just gains attack power, it doesn't gain any toughness. And it's going to give him first strike. So this means that creature is going to turn into a 5/1 with first strike. So that means this guy is absolutely creamed if he gets attacked. So we enter the combat phase. This guy is going to swing for 5.
With Lightning Talons, Goblin Piker is a 5/1 with first strike. Normally this would kill your creature, but you have a spell that can change this situation.
Exactly. So at this point, I have the opportunity to declare a blocker. So I can take the 5 damage.
Start by blocking Goblin Piker with your creature.
Or I can block the Goblin Piker with my Kalonian Tusker. Now, he would die in the attempt, but he would also... Actually, he wouldn't even kill the Goblin Piker because the Goblin Piker has first strike. The Goblin Piker would do 5 damage, and boom, Kalonian Tusker is dead before he can even do his returning 3 damage. So what we can do then is we can take our Giant Growth, and we're going to cast this. Okay, sorry, I need to first do this. So I'm going to block. Need to select him, and then select him. I'm going to block that way. I'm going to click block.
Because it's the middle of combat,
stop it.
now cast Giant Growth, targeting your creature.
So I press spacebar there to stop the timer. As I say, this is just something really, really specific to this game, where you have to stop the gameplay and go, whoa, hang on, I want to do something. Whereas normally the other actual real life players would be waiting for you to see what are you going to do anyway. So now I'm going to play Giant Growth, and I'm going to play it on this guy. So he now becomes 6/6. He's able to absorb that full 5 damage. So as you can see here, Goblin Piker has 5 power, so it deals 5 damage to Kalonian Tusker. First strike lets Goblin Piker damage Kalonian Tusker first. So boom, he takes that full 5 damage, full whack, but he survives, and then after that he's able to retaliate with his 6 damage and kill the Goblin Piker. First strike, boom. Before Kalonian Tusker even knows Goblin Piker is there. So he hasn't been destroyed. And now we're going to do the retaliating damage. So again, this kind of reiterates the first strike thing again that I kind of made a mess of explaining the last time. And he's gone. So when the turn ends, all damage dealt to creatures wears off. That's fair enough. Furthermore, when the turn ends, the effect from this instant will also wear off and it'll disappear.
Excellent. Remember to stop the timer the next time you want to surprise your opponent with an instant.
So again, as I say, this is not something you would have to do in Magic. You would go, whoa, I'm going to play this. Okay, so we're going to play a forest, and we now have the ability to play our Spiked Baloth, and he's a 4/2 creature with trample. Play him, and there we go. Okay, we're going to swing for 3 because he's tapped out, he doesn't have anything to block it, and we'll attack. Okay, so he's playing another land. He has access to 4 mountains now, 4 red mana. And he is going to play Lightning Bolt. Oh no, you bastard. Okay, so he's playing Lightning Bolt. He's paying 1 red mana to cast Lightning Bolt. And this is one of those cheap instants that you can play that will kind of save you, really. It's kind of something that you will stick in your deck for emergencies or for things like this. So he doesn't have any really other options but to play this and take out one of my creatures. So he's going to, more than likely, he has a choice actually. He can take out either one of them because 3 damage is enough to kill either one of them. If I was him, I would take out this 4/2 guy with trample. And there we go. He's taking out my poor Spiked Baloth. Okay, so going to play a forest. Now we have an instant here called Withstand Death. We can cast it for 1 green mana. And target creature gains indestructible until end of turn. An indestructible permanent, as you would imagine, can't be destroyed. If a spell's effect would destroy an indestructible permanent and do something else, only the part that destroys a permanent does nothing. If an indestructible creature has been dealt enough damage to destroy it, the creature is not destroyed. Indestructible permanents can still be sacrificed, returned to the owner's hands, exiled, and put into their owner's libraries. So they're only indestructible, not invincible. They don't just stay there forever and ever and ever. They can only not be destroyed by damage. Now again, that's an instant, and that's only until the end of turn, so there's no way I'm going to play that now. Unfortunately, I can't play any of my Alpha Tyrannaxes, so I'm going to continue. I'm not going to do anything in this step. He doesn't appear to have anything to block me, so I'm going to swing for 3. Perfect. Okay. Now, if he had decided to do something like play another Lightning Bolt, what I could have done is I could have pressed spacebar, stopped the timer, cast my Withstand Death, and he would not have been destroyed by a Lightning Bolt. Thankfully, I didn't even have to do that, so that's good. Perfect. Okay. Going to play a Forest, and we're going to play an Alpha Tyrannax. Now, unfortunately, I've tapped myself out mana-wise, so I can't actually rely on Withstand Death at the moment, but there doesn't seem to be anything... You know, he has access to 5 mana, but he doesn't appear to have anything, you know, deadly that could stop me, so we're just going to swing anyway and see what happens. Boom, here we go. So, unfortunately, I've kind of screwed myself out of saving my Kalonian Tusker here. If I had 1 mana available, I could now cast Withstand Death and prevent his demise, but unfortunately he's actually just going to die, and there's nothing I can do about it. It's a real shame. I was actually growing attached to that Kalonian Tusker. Okay, so he now has access to 6 red mana, and he's going to play Lightning Hounds. So this is a creature with first strike, and it's a 3/2. Now, it doesn't have haste, which is another ability which would allow it to attack on the same turn it's been played, so it's summoning sick, so it can't do anything at this point. So, now I'm going to play my Forest, I'm going to play my Alpha Tyrannax, put him onto the board, and I still have 1 green mana left available to me to play Withstand Death if I need to. I'm not going to use it, so we're going to continue, we're going to jump into the combat phase. I'm going to attack with my Alpha Tyrannax for 6/5. And if he decides to, you know, lightning bolt it or double lightning bolt it or do anything to kill it, it's not going to happen. So the Lightning Hounds do 3 damage before I can even think about it, but he survives, he retaliates with 6 damage, and the Lightning Hounds attack. Okay, and we end the turn. Okay, so he is playing a sorcery here, Goblin Offensive. So the mana cost for this is X. So that can be whatever you want, whatever you can afford. It needs 1 colorless and it needs 2 red mana. So he only has red mana there, so he's going to pay 3 red mana, and that means he then has an additional 4 that he can pay to pay the X cost here. So he could put 4 1/1 red goblin creature tokens onto the battlefield. And he's decided to do exactly that.
A spell that has X in its cost has an effect that changes depending on how much mana you pay to cast it. The more you pay, the bigger the effect.
Exactly. So, I have a spell here which also has X, and it's called Untamed Might, and a target creature gets +X until end of turn. Fantastic. So, I have 2 Alpha Tyrannaxes here. I have Withstand Death. He's completely tapped out, but these guys can block. So what he can do is he can block all of the damage from these guys with just 2 of these guys. They'll die, but they'll soak up all of the damage. He'll be fine. I'll then be tapped out and not be able to do anything. So, what should we do? I'm not going to use Untamed Might because that would be a waste, because they would soak up all of that damage. I'm not going to use Withstand Death because they're perfectly fine. So I'm going to jump into the combat step, and I'm only going to attack with 1 of my creatures. So that leaves me available to block any attacks that come in later, and I should hopefully take out at least 1 of these guys. All he needs to do is just use 1 of them. There we go. Just 1. It soaks up all of the damage, and the goblin guy goes. So he's cannon fodder. Perfect. And then we continue. It's looking like this game might kind of drag on a little bit, so we might do some fancy editing and try and cut out some of the more boring parts. Okay, so we've now got another Untamed Might to use. I've only got 2 creatures, so he doesn't seem to be wanting to actually attack with any of these guys. So probably the best thing to do here is to swing, because I have 20 health. He'd need to do something fairly powerful to take me out right now. So I'm going to swing at both of these guys. He's going to have to block with at least 2 of them. So that means it's 2 less that I have to deal with. Okay, so that's 2 of them gone. I'm going to move on. Now these are instants as well, so I can cast these at any point. So if he decides to cast any kind of a lightning bolt or lightning spell or anything like that on me, I'm fine. He decided not to. I'm going to cast another forest. Now he only has 1 of these guys left, so I have 2 Untamed Mights. So I will need at least 1 green man. I'm not. Why would I play that? That is pointless. There's no point in playing that at the moment, unless the computer knows what the player is going to do next. I don't want to play that. Stop telling me to play that. Anyway, so I have 2 Untamed Mights. They both have X and 1 green mana, so that means I need to put aside 2 green mana. Then I have 6, so I can pay 3 each and buff these guys up by 3/3. Now, the problem is I need to unfortunately waste these in order to ensure that at least 1 of these guys makes it past this guy and does the damage. If I just enchanted 1 of these guys and then attacked with both of them, the smart thing for him to do would be to block the guy who's been enchanted. So I can't really win that way. Probably the best thing to do is actually just to keep it going and swing with both of them and see what he does. In fact, what I can probably do... Oh no! Damn it! Oh, I was hoping to stop the timer before my creature did the damage to the player so that I could buff him up. But unfortunately I missed that chance. Shag it. See, what I was hoping to do was wait for him to declare his blocker and then use the instant on the creature who hadn't been blocked. Now, ordinarily in a paper game of Magic, I'd be able to do that. I believe I would have had the opportunity there also, but I didn't avail of the opportunity. Now, this is another instant, or sorry, this is a sorcery actually, not an instant. He's paying 5 red mana to just basically do 5 damage to me, and there's nothing I can do to stop it. Boom, 5 damage. I'm not happy about that, but there's not much I can do about it. He now has access to a further 5 red mana. He's not doing anything about it. We come into my turn here. Now, he doesn't have any creatures to block this, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pay cost for this. So I'm going to go with, so out of 8, and another further one will go down, so it's going to be like 4 and 3. Well, no, screw it. Yeah, let's just pay the 8. I'll attack with everything. Now, if he has some sort of lightning spell or anything like that, the smart thing to do would be to play it on this guy, but he might not be able to kill it anyway. So, boom, 6 damage, down you go to 2, and hopefully, there we go. Boom, bye-bye. 14 damage, you're gone, my friend. Oh, there we go. So thankfully that didn't drag out too long. And as I say, that was all about instants and the timer, and again, I keep reiterating the timer is only really in this game. You don't really come across a timer in Paper Magic unless you're actually in a tournament, and it doesn't function anywhere near as narrowly as it does in this game. So that is episode 2. We're going to stop it there. So in this episode we've come across enchantments and auras, and we've talked about permanents and things that stay on the battlefield and things that don't, buffing up creatures and attaching directly to creatures and things like that. And we've also gone over instants and the ability to basically kind of pause gameplay and go, okay, right at this point what I'm going to do is I'm going to cast this instant and I'm going to kill your creature, or I'm going to buff up my guy so that he survives, or I'm going to buff up this guy so that he can actually wipe you out. And those are the 2 kind of lessons that we've gone over this time. The next time we're going to be going over activated abilities, and hopefully then, in the next episode, we will take on Chandra Nalar and apply all of the lessons that we've learned thus far. So, thanks very much for coming along for the ride, guys. As always, I really appreciate the patronage, as it were. So if you have any feedback, please let me know. If you have any comments on this, if you've played Magic before, if you're interested in, if you'd like to know what's going on, if you'd like to know a bit further information, if you'd like to point out anything that I said or did wrong, please let me know. Like the video if you did so, I'd really appreciate that. Comment if you have any feedback, and subscribe for more. Thanks very much, guys. We'll talk to you next time. Just us and the stars.